Hello friends and sunflowers, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the Dark Moon chapter, chapter 14, which is called Hidden Feelings, I had to check that, and the Starseekers chapter 13, which doesn't have a name as far as I can tell. Anyways, let's cover Dark Moon first. If you read the Webtoon on the Webtoon app, you can hear the music is a preview, but of course I will be doing a full reaction to that later when the music video comes out, which I forget the date, but there's a date that it's coming out. Anyways, there'll be a reaction that'll probably be shortly following this video, so if you haven't heard that already at this point, well, there's also a music video, So this chapter was mostly a long conversation, but it does have a lot of spicy details, so let's get into talking about it and what it means, of course. And there's some things I'm really excited about actually in this chapter. Of course, it continues off of Helly's absolutely distraught face from the end of the last chapter, but he tries to get over himself, and Suha's like, oh my god, why does he hate Khan so much? Like, why doesn't he like the fact that I was with Khan? Like, I don't get it. I mean, beyond the fact that he obviously likes you, at least she's got some sense here. She's like, oh yeah, they do hate each other, huh? I guess it's because, you know, they are opposing nightball teams, and there's a tournament coming up, or the big match is coming up, or whatever she says. And so he's just trying to be like, oh, like, do you need help with classes? And she's like, oh my god, this is the best time ever, which is really cute because, like, she has been struggling her whole life, basically, because everyone always tells her, oh my god, like, you must be a vampire because you have super strength or whatever it is. So she's finally really happy. And then they're interrupted, of course, by the other vampires who cannot leave them alone. And they're all like, oh yeah, we love reading, ha ha ha. One of them has like an upside down book. But I will say, something that caught my eye was Cheyenne, because, Cheyenne? I feel like we've had this discussion on how to say this name, and it's been long enough now that I haven't said the name, and I'm not sure what pronunciation was correct. I'm gonna stay with Cheyenne, because I knew someone with a name spelled like that, pronounced Cheyenne, but if for whatever reason it's actually pronounced Cheyenne, sorry. Anyways, Cheyenne is reading a book about quantum physics, and it's kind of joked. It's like, haha, they were just joking. They weren't actually reading these books. But I do find it really interesting because quantum physics is like the really small particles and how they react differently. Like in our reality, there's like proof that particles react differently, like small particles react differently when observed. And they just don't like look into like the double slit experiment, for example, if you are interested. Basically, you cut two holes in something and using sunlight, or I can't remember, there's a particular type of light going through these holes into a box. When you look through it, you expect to see two lines, but instead what's shown is like several lines, like going out in gradation, as if light acts like a wave. But then when they try to observe it more closely, it starts reacting like with the two slits, the way that the two lines, the way that you expect it to. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that, technically. But if you are interested, that's what I'm thinking of. But I'm wondering if they're trying to use, like, quantum physics, quantum mechanics as a way to explain multiple dimensions in this story. I just found it really interesting, like, that out of everything that he could have been reading, and he's the one who's, like, kind of suspicious for me, too. I'm just like, oh, interesting. Why is it that you're the one reading quantum mechanics? It probably would have been most suspicious if it was Noah, because Nikki's character is the one that, like, travels between. But it does just make me wonder if that might be something that they can loop together, like, there are different waves of realities or something like that. Dimensions, each dimension and decision is a different wave. I don't know. That's interesting for me to think about, so sorry if that's like really complicated. I don't know how well I described that. Noah is reading the book upside down, called The Selfish Gene. Even though he's reading it upside down, this is actually a real book, but has to do with like natural selection and like how evolution works, kind of, which I just personally find a little bit interesting considering they're vampires, and so natural selection either favored them or they literally can't participate in it. Anyways, these two books I just found really interesting because there was another book that they were holding and it didn't have a cover, so they specifically chose these book covers. I'm just wondering why very specifically they chose those covers, Because, like, there must have been reasoning behind it. But quantum mechanics and natural selection, I'm just suspicious. But of course, this whole thing brings up, you know, the fact that Suha and Heli had been talking about the werewolf situation. So Suha's like, oh my god, like, apparently werewolves fall in love during the full moon, the eclipse during the full moon or whatever, and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, it's so romantic, and it explains how much she likes werewolves. And obviously the boys are like, no, no, werewolves are, they shed everywhere. And Solon is still, like, my favorite. If he's a second lead, I don't know if there's second leads in this or not, but if he's second lead, Solon is my favorite. I love him so much. He's so cute. I love him. He's so funny. He's like, yeah, totally. Who would like a werewolf? Oh, I love him. Poor boy. Anyways, it goes into then Suha describing how much she absolutely detests vampires, which is super awkward because obviously they're all vampires. And that's what I love about Webtoon Suha over the web novel Suha. Web novel Suha has no opinion on vampires. She does not care. And then she finds out they're vampires pretty quickly. Here, there's, like, stakes to me, and I really appreciate that, because it's like, wow, this is why they don't want to tell her. They told her they have magical powers, like she does. Well, not magical powers, but you know what I mean. And they won't tell her that it's because they are vampires. I just find that really interesting to read. It's also hilarious, because we as readers obviously know they are vampires. So it's just like, oh shoot, girl, wait, maybe just stop describing how come you hate them so much. I will say, this must have killed him to say, everyone hates vampires. Oh, but I will say, the other important fun thing that we saw was the invitation, which Cheyenne was holding. I think it was Cheyenne. And he hides it behind his back. The invitation to their birthday party, their bloody birthday party, which is the Drunk Dazed music video. So I think the story is potentially catching up to the music videos in terms of the webtoon, of course. The web novel is ahead of the music videos, but we're not trusting the web novel at this point in time completely, so... Anyways, so he was going to invite her, which makes me think maybe this is going to follow the same timeline as the music videos, which sort of seem like they might be something different. But in the music video, they kind of like leave it on a bench, and Suha finds the invitation. So I'm wondering if that's going to tie in. And if so, I'm really excited to see if they're going to show anything of the birthday party, like how we saw in the Drunk Dazed music video. So then maybe you can get a little bit more context for some scenes, like the scene with Sungwoon where everything is just like the walls start bleeding or whatever. That's one of the scenes that I was like not sure I understood at the time, and still now I'm still wondering what that's supposed to signify. So I'm excited to see that, because obviously that's going to give us a little bit more context as to what's going on. The guys are pretty understanding, by the way, that Suha was like bursting out at them, and like, why wouldn't they be? I think they get it. And I assume there's still drifters in this story, so those are the vampires that are like less powerful, that are being controlled by someone. They would obviously hate that too, since most likely the vampires that Suha has come across and other people come across have been drifters, not vampires like the boys. And then of course it cuts to night time, where Suha is feeling bad about freaking out about the vampire situation thing, and she ends up telling Heli about why she hates vampires so much, which means that now Heli knows about the existence of Chris. And I've mentioned this before, but Chris is not in the web novel, so he's an anomaly. An anomaly. It's a hard word to say. In this story, and we haven't seen anything of Chris in the music videos either, so I don't even know what to expect about Chris, which is very, very exciting for me, because I just but I wouldn't be surprised if Chris somehow makes its way into another music video somehow. I just don't know how they would do that, because obviously with Suha they've never shown her face. So with Chris, I would imagine they would also not show his face if they put him into a music video somehow, because obviously the music videos are still centered around ENHYPEN, since it's ENHYPEN encompassing these characters. But the chapter ends on a interesting note, obviously, because Suha told him, like, oh, I even bit like, he even offered to let me bite his neck or whatever to prove that I wasn't a vampire. And so Helly, trying to prove that, hey, I can be your friend too, just like how Chris was a good friend to you when you were a child, would you like to bite my neck? Which, I mean, I just find that very interesting. Obviously, I guess vampire blood in this story can't turn you into a vampire. I would just wonder, like, what will that accomplish? I'm really excited to see the next chapter. But I will say, it's funny, because obviously he is just trying to be like, hey, I will be your friend, but also, it's just a really weird even when they did it as kids, I was like, okay, at least they were kids, like, that's a thing that kids would come up with, but, like, they're teenagers at this point in time. It's just really funny to me. I'm not sure, like, is blood something that turns you into a vampire? Because previously I was thinking it would, and in the web novel it's kind of implied that it could. Like, the blood of the royal vampires is very powerful, or noble vampires. So, like, is this the same vein as that? I don't know. Clearly he's not concerned about that, and I think maybe they won't even go through. It's possible they might not even go through with it. This might just be a gesture of, hey, I trust you, I see you, I want to be friends with you, rather than an actual, like, hey, you want to bite my neck. At least that's kind of what I hope. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. Again, I think the whole Chris situation is going to be changing the story a little bit. I am interested to see how still Suha is going to figure out that they are vampires, because obviously she will at some point, like, what that situation will be and, like, how she'll be okay with it or not. Although I assume that something will happen and she'll just have to be okay with it, you know? So yeah. Oh, my dad is calling me. Hold on. Hello? Okay, so now let's move on to the Starseekers. By the way, if you guys have any theories, please leave them in the comments below. Like I did before, I want to highlight some of your fun theories of things that you think will come up. Please don't spoil anything, only give your theories. So if you've read ahead, please don't tell anyone. Thanks. Okay, so talking about the Starseekers. So this is the first chapter of the Starseekers has dropped since it's been on hiatus. There are some things that I want to talk about first before we go in. I have not read all of the web novel of what the Starseekers is out yet. I have seen several spoilers about things that are to come, but I haven't explicitly read all of the chapters that are out the way I have for Dark Moon, so keep that in mind. Currently, as of filming this video, I don't have the foresight of the web novel, but I'm going to try and read as much as I can, so that maybe I can refer to things that might happen in future chapters. There is some information that I do know that I will be able to share, but not all of it, so just keep that in mind. So the chapter prior to this chapter, when they left us off on it, started, of course, with them being attacked during their concert. Actually, that was, like, not the last chapter, but over the last couple chapters. And it also showed Yeonjun making a contract with the cat and suddenly becoming strong because he unlocks his magic. Very interestingly, that theme carries over onto this chapter, and not in the way that I was expecting when I first started reading it. Obviously, they're still in the middle of this attack. They're getting attacked. DK, their manager, who is particularly powerful, is kind of being overwhelmed, and his causality, which is what happens when you use too much magic at once, it starts to damage you. Like, it's a trade-off for using that energy. His causality is taking a toll on him, so he's, like, bleeding, and he's like, I'm gonna be at a disadvantage really soon. So they're in a tight corner, which is a little bit different from the web novel, because in the web novel, he's usually been able to just, like, completely, like, protect them in a lot of these situations. At least that was the impression that was given. Anyways, so then it cuts to Avis and Viken, specifically those, and they're trapped. They're about to, like, be finished off by this guy who's, like, trying to flamethrower them. Viken is trying to heal Avis, who's like, why is this happening to us? Like, our magic is this, like, it develops late, but I don't understand why this is happening. So, because other people have magic too. Like, what's the difference between their magic and ours? And he's obviously, I feel like he's going to be the one to figure it out, you know? He's going to be the first to be like, oh, something's weird about our magic here. Or at least he'll bring it up. I don't know. Good on you, Avis, for thinking of this stuff. Anyways, as they're about to get flamethrowered, the cat, for some reason, also shows up for Viken and Avis. Keep that in mind, because that's 3 out of the 5 that has spoken to the cat directly. Keep those 3 in mind, because I'll come back to that in a second. Anyways, the cat bestows them what also kind of looks like a contract in the form of like handcuffs, or like this like hand supports almost on Viken. And all of a sudden their magic is way more powerful for some reason. So for some reason, the contract that Eugene just made with the cat previously is now carrying over specifically onto these two. And that they're awesome. They completely start to decimate their opponents. I mean, Viken literally grows a whole tree. And also, Avis sort of summons like this, I don't know, it looks like a phoenix thing, which I think was the one that we saw in the opening part. So he summons that one, and then he ends up like flying on it so he can find the others. Makes sense. We do know that Soul. This is so hard. This is harder for me to keep their names separate than it is with Darkmoon, so I'm so sorry that I keep saying the wrong names. Soul is with Eugene in this part, so we're not too worried about them because Eugene just had his power up. However, Taehyun, or Taho, is by himself, and he's lost his book, which he has to use, like, he seems to need this book in order to use magic, which is kind of interesting. If he can't hold the book and read the spells, then he's not able to use magic, apparently. We don't see the cat talk to him yet. And then he's like, oh, he sees these people, attacking, like, these innocent people who are probably concert goers. I'm guessing that they're doing this to draw them out so that they can come and save the day, because obviously they're, like, appealing to their morality. They're like, oh, we can't let these innocent people get hurt. And thus they're kind of, like, terrorizing the civilians in order to draw out the boys, which works completely. So, but of course Taho has no ability, so what is he gonna do? Luckily Avis is watching over him, or like watching, like he's right there, but it's not like he can stop that. And that's actually where the chapter ends. It feels very short for some reason. Maybe it's just because there's a lot of action-y shots. But it ends with Taho getting attacked by this fire that the guy sends over to him. The aunties sent over to them, and that's where it ends. So what do you think is going to happen? Is the cat going to come and appear in front of Taho, or is Avis going to be the one to save Taho, or someone else? What do you think? I do find it interesting that currently the two that haven't made any contract with the cat are Taehyun and Subin, Soul and Taho, because they are the liars in the storyline, and they're the only ones without the contract. I don't know, maybe that's not related at all, because I do feel like they all kind of have to make the contract with the cat. But I'm reminded of the scene in The Doom's Night where Taehyun's character runs up to Yeonjun's character, who's consumed entirely by the cat, and we do know Yeonjun's character of course makes that contract and is the reason that all of this is happening. Which is sort of means that by making that contract, he also dragged specifically Bomgyu's character and Kai's character into it, which is a little bit unfair, because they didn't make that decision. They just got this power from seemingly nowhere. They might have probably recognized the cat. I assume they could see the cat, and it wasn't just like an invisible voice. But it's just very interesting to me that I'm like waiting for the cat to show up to Taho now. Or maybe it just won't. Very interesting. Very interesting. I do really want to read the next chapter. Wait, can I read the next chapter? Because previously we couldn't. Oh, you can. Obviously this is just one big battle where they're all kind of becoming, I think they're all going to become aware of the fact that their magic is special. And perhaps after this, I'm kind of thinking maybe DK will reveal some things. Fairly certain DK is from Magic Island originally as well. Anyways, I feel like we're leading into them discovering that they're the boys of legend, and it's related to Magic Island and stuff like that, which they have actually been to before, but they were like, oh, this is a weird Magic Island. That's because it's not the Magic Island that's the theme park. It's the Magic Island that's magic. So yeah, I realized that one was a lot shorter. I feel like I talked about Dark Moon a lot more. But I am kind of excited for them to get moving with this story, obviously, because there's like a lot more that we know about TXT's story that's been shown in both the music videos and in the web novel, of course, which again, I still don't completely trust anything that I've seen in the web novel until it comes onto the Webtoon, because they are mostly focused on the Webtoon. I feel like they've just like started throwing up chapters for the web novel. I said that last time. I'm just reiterating what I've said in the past. And like part of that is kind of like making it hard for me to like theorize. The other thing is that like with Dark Moon and ENHYPEN's story, a lot of what we've seen has been in the future, but some of it is stuff that we've already seen or like we're about to see. And I feel with Starseekers, the story that we see in the Webtoon is so far behind what we've already seen in like the Eternally music video, in the Magic Island music video. Like we haven't seen any of that in the Webtoon, like basically at all. So I kind of am waiting for it to like connect again, because obviously it has to connect at some point, right? I mean, there's still like the whole multiple realities, parallel universe things going on, and I do still think there's possibly some form of time travel that has happened or might be happening in terms of TXT's universe, which I'm making a video on this, but there's like an alternate storyline that's a little bit less magical focused that is in some of their music videos, like their most recent music video and music videos like Loser Lover, 0 by 1, and it's still magic based but not so much, whereas this is like their magic idols. So I am pretty interested in seeing where it'll go, and seeing more parallels between things, because I am seeing some parallels between the two stories. And I just want to see how it's going to connect to the music videos we've already gotten that are supposed to be part of the Starseekers storyline. I think I've talked myself out at this point. I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it all the way here, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're expecting coming up, or what was your favorite part of these chapters. How do you think it's going to tie into the music videos? And make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so that YouTube tells you every single time I post a video. And I want to give a shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. I really appreciate you guys. I've been here like the entire time that I was on break from before. So I really love you guys so much. If you want to come and hang out and chat with me and the others on our private Discord server for patrons only, consider joining my Patreon. As it is, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay sunny, everyone. Bye!